All right, welcome to episode 140 of the Charm City Birdwatch podcast. I'm your host, Nolan McGraw. I've got Jake here with me. We're rounding out the 2020 NFL season. Well, I guess we're in 2021 now, but we're closing up shop. Jake's been with us for the entire season, or pretty much the entire season. It feels like it. And we have finally reached the end of the NFL season. Super Bowl took place on Sunday, and we are just going to break down the entire game. Not really going to get into much else besides that. Be just strictly a Super Bowl episode this week, so maybe a little on the shorter side. But right off the bat, Tom Brady, ring number 7 for him. More Super Bowl rings for one man than every franchise in the NFL. Yes, that includes the Pittsburgh Steelers, what I was saying a week or two ago. Finally, you have a response to the Pittsburgh Steelers fans always talking about how they have 6 rings. Well, hey, guess what? One man has more rings than your entire history of your franchise. And he did it in about 20 years. So there you go. And this is 20 years, but this is spanned now that we are in 2021, I guess. He's done this over the span of 3 decades, technically, but 2 full decades at least. That's impressive in itself. And, you look at from the start to where he is now, a little bit of a drop-off in play, but really not that much. And if you want to break it down into like 5-6 year chunks, there's no real difference in his resume between those 5-6 year chunks. Like, he won an MVP in the 2010s. He has like 2 to 3 Super Bowl wins in each little 5-year, 6-year segment. It's evenly spread out. As I said, the level of his play has not dropped off really at all. He still takes deep shots. He's still accurate on the deep ball. He's 43 years old. Looks like he's 33 years old. Plays like it. Extremely durable. I mean, what else can you say about Tom Brady? He's absolutely magic. And to now take what was a 7-9 Buccaneers team last year, not only take them to the postseason, but take them to the Super Bowl, and then win the Super Bowl by dominating the defending champs. I know the GOAT debate wasn't even a debate going into this game. That was probably settled years ago. I want to say after that Falcons comeback victory in the Super Bowl. I think that's probably a safe bet when everyone sort of agreed that he was the GOAT. But at this point, how far can he go? That's where I'm at. It's not a debate as to who the greatest is anymore. Because he's 43, he already said he's coming back. He wasted no time, didn't even dance around it, didn't even entertain the idea of retirement. He's all in, he's coming back, and he's got a legit chance to win an 8th. I know that sounds crazy. You should never jump to that kind of conclusion, but with Brady, he's won 7, and this one at the age of 43 in his first year with a brand new team. Nothing is impossible, and I think it's very possible he wins an 8th in the next couple of years as he winds out his career. Really, I don't know how long he's going to play, but as a fan of the game, I kind of just want to see how far one man can go. Can he win 8? 9? I don't know. Like, nothing's off the table right now. We know how hard it is to construct complete teams in the NFL, but I really don't think a ring number 8, and I know that sounds crazy. We just won number 7 here to already be talking about what about an 8th ring. But when it comes to Brady, I just feel like that's the way the conversation should be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said about Brady being the best of all time, and there really is no argument to be made there. It's funny to see that there's no middle road with Tom Brady. It's either you're like you and I, where we just kind of sit back, and at this point we've given in and we're just enjoying everything that we have left to see of Tom Brady, because I highly doubt that we're going to see anything close to what he's ever done. I mean, people already want to talk about Pat Mahomes sorry, for as good as he is, he's got a long way to go to reach what Brady's accomplished. I mean, 10 Super Bowls. It's just absolutely insane. Like, to expect that out of any quarterback is just ridiculous. And you already have, the comparisons between Mahomes and all these great quarterbacks, not disputing anything Mahomes can do physically, but I'm sorry, it's just he's got one championship and he's played in 2 Super Bowls. Compared to Tom Brady, he's done absolutely nothing in this league yet. And it's nothing in between. It's either you're with us and you have the opinions that we do where we respect Brady, or you're on the other side where I've already had one of my friends who, hates Brady more than anything. He turned the Super Bowl off early, and his words were he's not watching next year, one, and he believes the NFL is rigged. And I told him as soon as he said that, I'm holding him to that next year. So that friend, who I will leave his name out to not embarrass him, I guess he will not be watching the 2021 Ravens try to compete for a championship. At least that's what he said on Sunday. We'll see if he sticks to that next in the fall. I'm going to hold him to it, but I doubt he will. Anyway, Brady is the best of all time. Not only does he still amaze you with what he does on the field at his age, he still has got multiple seasons left in him, but it's also the stuff that he does. I mean, you heard Bruce Arians talk about it. You heard his offensive teammates talk about it. Everybody on the Buccaneers, whether it was a defensive player, it just seems like no matter who came out of that organization this year, they all talked about how Brady, in the moment that he got there, he instilled confidence in the team and made them believe that they could win a championship. And he kept that promise throughout the season. We heard about how he was always texting his teammates throughout last week in the season, just reinstilling that confidence, saying, hey, we're not, he wasn't using the words, if we win this, he was saying, when we win this, like, we will win this. So just letting this extremely talented team around him believe that they could win a championship. And then additionally, bringing in all those guys like Antonio Brown, among others that Brady was responsible for, Gronkowski. I don't know how much involvement he had with the Leonard Fournette deal, but I mean, it's just funny considering that he was added after Brady made it to the team, and all 3 of those guys scored in the Super Bowl, but he was responsible for, helping make this extremely talented roster even more of a championship caliber offense. And, are Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski what they were 5 years ago? No, but you also have Mike Evans. You also have Scotty Miller. You also have Chris Godwin. You have Ronald Jones. It's just the list goes on and on and on. They had the best roster in the NFL this past season. And, that coupled along with the Chiefs and, the Mahomes having the bad foot and losing yet another offensive lineman, perhaps their best offensive lineman in Eric Fisher, really exposed the Chiefs offensive line. And we certainly saw the Buccaneers pass rush take advantage of that on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll get into the Bucs defense especially, but I have one more thing on Brady, and then I promise we'll stop gushing about him, because it does feel a little weird. I'll say that as a Ravens fan, it feels a little weird to give him this much praise. But think about all I'll call it a media circus that surrounds Tom Brady just because of who he is at this point in his career. Can't ignore some of the scandal stuff. Look, Deflategate. Some of you might laugh when that word is when that comes up, but it happened. And all of his time in New England with Bill Belichick and everything, there's such a media circus around Tom Brady. And when he went to Tampa, whether you think this is warranted or not, that media circus followed him and was like a cloud over Tampa Bay. And like you said, Jake, this is not a team outside of some of the guys he enlisted, really only Gronk. I don't know who else on that Tampa Bay roster has played, if any, in a Super Bowl. I guess JPP. He's played in a Super Bowl. That's the only one that comes to mind. And there were moments this season where the media tried to spin things. They were trying to push the whole Brady versus Belichick thing all year. Who was more responsible for the Patriots' success? And then when the Patriots had their struggles, and it sort of shifted to more of a dogpiling on them. And then, once the Bucs made the postseason, it sort of shifted more favorably towards Tom. But after some of their losses in the regular season, it was just such a dark media cloud over them, only because they had Tom Brady. It's like, do you guys not remember just last year when you had Jameis Winston as the quarterback of this team, where they went 7-9, mind you. This guy threw 30 interceptions. And yeah, Tom Brady might have had a rough game here in 2020. The Buccaneers lost. But Tom Brady's not throwing 30 interceptions this year. He's just 100 times the leader that Jameis Winston is. I understand it with the media circus, but that followed Tom to Tampa Bay, and he didn't let that impact the rest of the team. And I think that's also a testament to, his leadership ability to be able to manage that. Like, he understands it at this point in his career.
No, I mean, all I can say is, wow. And to be what he's still doing at 43, to have more, rings as a single player than any franchise in NFL history now. He is definitely in the category of the best athletes of all time. So, yeah, what more can you say, really?
All right, let's talk about the Chiefs. We'll start by saying, I know, Jake, you feel the same way, as an oddly, or maybe not oddly, satisfying game to watch as a Ravens fan, to see this dominant Chiefs team, especially a dominant offensive team like the Chiefs are, just completely crumble and struggle the entire game and did not find the end zone once. That has never happened in Pat Mahomes' professional career, to be held out of the end zone. I think you have to go all the way back to high school. I don't think he was held out of the end zone in college either. So this is completely unprecedented for Mahomes, and not just him, this entire offense. And I'm going to say this entire team played their worst game in a very long time. But everyone wants to focus on the offense and Mahomes. We can start there. Let's say the obvious. He was under duress way too much. You look at the injuries on the offensive line, was clearly a factor. But I will say, and it was only a couple plays, because for the most part, Mahomes, I believe he was, pressured on more than half of his dropbacks. He had what was considered pressure stat-wise. He still managed to have like 3 or 4 plays where he escaped what could have been a sack and then chuck up. I don't even want to call it chucking, because it was, these passes were on such a dime. I mean, they were bullets. The one that everyone's talking about, where he's falling to the ground, he's parallel with the turf, and manages to throw just a perfect spiral on a line, on a rope, and a defender batted it down, but it was in the vicinity of a receiver. And if it wasn't such, triple double coverage or whatever it was by the Bucs defense, might have had a chance for a contested catch, where the receiver could have wrestled it to the ground. I don't know. You replay that throw over and over again, it just doesn't feel humanly possible. This kid's crazy. I mean, he's still the best quarterback in the league. He's going to have chances to win Super Bowls for years to come. But in this one, his offensive line let him down. His receivers dropped passes. I'm not ignoring that. But then at the end of the day, he didn't play well either. He missed his mark on stuff. He had stupid mistakes. It wasn't entirely his fault. I by no means am blaming him for this loss. It was completely a team loss for the Chiefs in every facet of the game. But just strange to see Mahomes struggle like this, really for the first time in his NFL career.
Yeah, I mean, it really just it goes to show, the value of having. I mean, I think the Chiefs, but even before Fisher went down, they had lost 2 or 3 offensive linemen either before or during the season. So they were completely crippled. I mean, I'm sure Lamar Jackson was sitting there relating a little bit, saying, "Yeah, see what happens when you don't have all of your main starting offensive linemen out there. It's if you're going to lose the battle in the trenches." And we've seen this Tampa Bay defensive front 7 pass rush unit just come alive down the stretch. I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not considering that to be more of a factor. But hey, I mean, I'm not that disappointed that I picked the Chiefs to win the game because you consider the entire season. Yeah, the Buccaneers were the hotter team down the stretch, but the Chiefs, excluding the last game of the season when they rested all their guys, went 14-1. So, and not only the fact that the Buccaneer, I got my pick wrong, but to not have Mahomes score a touchdown, like you said, just the historical context of his career, not just in the pros, but developing into a professional, it's just rarely happened. He's just been so dominant at every single level. And yeah, I just give Todd Bowles. I mean, I think he deserves a ton of credit for the game plan and, Mahomes running for his life basically the entire game. It's funny, like we're talking about some of these crazy incompletions, like they were, actual touchdown passes in the Super Bowl because people were just, so obsessed with Mahomes. I just think this serves as a wake up call for Chiefs fans. It just goes to show how difficult it is to not let alone win a Super Bowl, but go back to back. It's been so rarely done. And it's such a tough feat to accomplish, in the NFL. They'll definitely be back. I mean, they're going to run into some salary cap issues, but you could say the same for every single team in the NFL with how the salary cap's going to be. But a negative side of this is, the Chiefs say they can use this as a motivation and so on and so forth. But maybe this will help the Chiefs fans be a tad less cocky going into next year, because we all know that they were relentless this year.
Right, and I mean, rightfully so. You make 3 straight AFC championships, win 2 of them, go to 2 Super Bowls, win 1 of them in 3 years. That's an impressive streak. So, at the end of the day, I sort of agree with you and say that, hey, anyone's beatable on any given game. And Mahomes, again, is not only capable of having a bad game, but he's capable of having it, and not just him, again, the entire team, because that team as a whole has just been so dominant with so much talent all around. They're capable as a whole of having their worst game on the biggest stage, in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, not just the regular season, having a bad week, but having your worst moment come in the playoffs. I agree with you there, but at the end of the day, the optics of it are they made 3 straight AFC championships. They made 2 straight Super Bowls. It's hard to repeat as champions, but it's also extremely hard to just go to back-to-back Super Bowls, and they did that. It's extremely hard to go to 3 championship games in a row. They did that. They were, a D Ford lining up off sides away from maybe playing in 3 straight Super Bowls. You don't know. And so I want to say that they shouldn't be as cocky, but after everything I just listed there, how can they not be? I mean, this team has just been so dominant, and the fact that we're, obsessively talking about how bad they were in this game, I think is even a bigger testament to how good they've been overall the past 3 years. They have one bad game at the worst moment, and everyone freaks out.
Yeah, and I mean, they're going to have some hurdles to overcome going into next year. I mean, an offensive lineman tearing an Achilles, that's a lot of weight to put on a foot. We've seen guys, we've seen Terrell Suggs and other players that are, on the heavier side come back pretty quick from that injury and be effective. But, everybody coming off that injury is a little bit different. So I think that'll be interesting to watch. And I've also been hearing in the headlines that Mahomes is getting the surgery on his toe at some point this week. And, toe injuries are complicated. They're tricky, and they can pop back up from lingering effects of the surgeries and things like that. So not saying that that's going to be a deteriorating factor for the Chiefs months away from the 2021 season, but it's just something to pay attention to. But I do expect them, like I was saying before, to be back. This is definitely, they've got some holes on defense that they'll probably be looking to address more so in the draft than in free agency, but they'll have, all their main guys, Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, the running back they drafted last year, Edwards-Helaire, is going to continue to develop along with Mahomes. So, they have all their key pieces back for the foreseeable future. So they're not going away, at least not immediately. But I think that also comes to show teams like the Ravens a little bit. Hey, they've dominated us so far, but they're not necessarily unbeatable. Like there are ways that we can get to them. Areas of the Ravens, as we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, certainly need to address as well, just like every other team does. But I don't think this Kansas City, they're going to be for the next couple of years. I think they'll be a Patriots-like team where they're going to go 13-3 or 12-4 most seasons. They're going to still be hard to beat, but it's not to say that it's impossible to beat this team. It's very possible to beat them. It's just extremely difficult to do.
So let's talk about the Bucs defense. You hinted at it earlier. They were definitely just as big and just as crucial as Brady was in sealing this victory. Again, to hold the defending champs, that high-powered offense, to just 9 points and keep them entirely out of the end zone is incredible. Even in garbage time, if you want to call it that, late in the game, they generated another turnover and kept them out of the end zone. So they were on their game from start to finish. When I picked the Bucs, I cited that front seven. I said that they were the difference maker because, look, 2 quarterbacks, very talented. Mahomes is the more, skilled, athletic one. Brady, the more experienced. In Super Bowls especially, I think that all balances out. It was a very even offensive matchup when you look at weapons and everything. But defense was the difference for me. And I just like that Bucs front seven more. I like that Bucs defense as a whole more. But even I couldn't have seen this coming. I expected that front seven to get after Mahomes in key situations, maybe really have some success on third down, pick up some sacks, get them off the field in crucial situations. But I couldn't have seen this coming where they had pressure in his face on more than half of his dropbacks. I didn't expect to see them have 2 guys in his face by the time he's making, his second read. And now they've got him spiraling and spinning around, moving farther and farther backwards down the field. I did not see that coming at all. So they were as dominant as could be, and certainly the Chiefs' depleted offensive line is a factor. But I don't think it takes anything away from the Bucs' defensive line because they've been playing that way all year. And then you go to the secondary, they had an answer for the Chiefs' top weapons. I know Travis Kelce finished with a decent box score line, had well over 100 yards. He got a lot of catches across the middle. But, him and Tyreek Hill were held in check. Tyreek Hill was pretty much shut down after dominating the Buccaneers defense in the regular season meeting. They completely took him out of the game. And Kelce had the yards, but he was a non-factor in the red zone, which is where he does his most damage. So top to bottom, front to back, every level, and obviously the coaching, the coordinating for this Bucs defense, hats off to them. You could say that entire defensive unit could have easily been the MVP of this game. But I know they got to give that to one guy, and Brady obviously played a great game. He deserved it, but if you could give it to a unit, I would say the Bucs defense was the clear MVP of this game because they were dominant start to finish.
Yeah, and I'm not, I don't want to complain about Brady being the MVP because it's so to win, the MVP, let alone on an offensive player's position, to not be a quarterback, because I feel like 8 or 9 times out of 10 now, the MVP of a Super Bowl, the MVP of the league, the award every year goes to a quarterback. But can you imagine just how difficult, the fact that Ray Lewis was a Super Bowl MVP, just imagine how difficult that would be for a defensive player. You would have to have a sack, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and an interception at the very least, and lead the team in tackles before you would even be thought about as being deserving of a Super Bowl MVP. It's absolutely crazy. Or, a cornerback would have to have 2 or 3 interceptions and a touchdown or something like that. But it just kind of fit the narrative, the Tom Brady narrative of him being the best of all time. But yeah, they've got some really talented linebackers down there, like Devontae David, Shaq Barrett, who of course is originally from Baltimore. I didn't even know that till I looked that up just a few minutes ago. But those two guys really impressed me. And, JPP still, it's kind of crazy. I think he's with his run with the Giants and then coming to the Buccaneers. I don't think he's ever played in a playoff game where the team that he's been on had lost, which is pretty remarkable. And I think both those times were wild card teams. So I think he must be like 8-0 in the playoffs. That's just absolutely insane. But yeah, you knew before the season, and we knew that this Buccaneers defense had some talent up front. I think the secondary was a little bit more of a younger unit, a little bit more of a question mark. But as talented as their front seven was, really made up for any weaknesses that the secondary had. And you throw Ndamukong Suh in there, which at this point in his career, he's an older player. He's not who he used to be, but still very effective. And a nice big body up there to help, disturb things in the backfield. But yeah, like you were saying, I thought they would have a decent game, but I was not anticipating them to hold the Chiefs out of the end zone. I mean, to keep a team from scoring a touchdown, regardless of who it is pretty difficult to do in today's NFL with how the rules are set up. But to be the Chiefs, a team that had already been in the Super Bowl last year, was on that big stage. I mean, just absolutely remarkable, and got to feel good for Arians. And I saw that they were showing when they showed his mom, who's in her 90s on the TV. I knew that Bruce has resided in York, or his family's been up here for a good while, but I didn't realize that his mother still lived in Hanover, which is where I'm residing now. So it was very cool to get small town like Hanover get a shout out during the Super Bowl. I thought that was kind of cool. And
yeah, that was a cool story. I remember when they said that during the broadcast. I had no idea. I didn't know that he had spent time here, but apparently he went to high school in the York area. So yeah, pretty cool. Cool moment. I'm going to claim him, and I'm going to say this is why I picked the Bucs. This is a victory for us York County, Pennsylvania residents everywhere. This is our Super Bowl victory. So whether we're Ravens, Eagles, Steelers fans, whatever, this is still a victory for us. I'm claiming it.
And from what I understand too with Arians, I mean, there's some rumors floating around now that he's finally won a championship at the age of 68 if he's going to step away. But I don't think it really makes sense to at this point. I mean, not only is he, he's coaching in a beautiful location in Tampa Bay where they have great weather all year, but he's got a 44-year-old quarterback who's essentially a coach. I mean, half of Tom Brady's role. He should also almost be like executive of the year for bringing in, Gronkowski and AB in the way in which he did. I think he deserves an argument there, even though he's not going to be recognized for that award. But he not only does he have, half coach, half quarterback out there for him, but he's got two coordinators in Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles. One already has head coaching experience and is probably going to get another chance to coach at some point. And Leftwich has also been a guy that's been mentioned in head coaching candidacies as well. So assuming both those guys are going to stay, and right now it looks like this late in the game, they probably will. From what I understand, from what I'm hearing, because he's got all this help and with his advanced age, he's been able to leave work, which at a decent hour, like at 5 or 6 p.m., which coaching in the NFL, that's completely unheard of. And at this point in his life, he's already retired once. He needs that. So why would he step away, especially after winning a championship, knowing that he's still got Brady for at least another season? Why would he walk away from that at this stage? I'm not going to say who floated that rumor around, but it made absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, I think if I was him, there's no way I would hang it up at this point. It's such a great situation, and that's very rare in the NFL to be set up with that much. It's his decision ultimately, and maybe if it's like a health thing, family thing, you can't question that at all. Those come first, but and he would be going out on top at that point. To win a Super Bowl, you can't really can't have any regrets at that point. But you're right. You do have Tom Brady. You do have this talented roster. There's no reason why you can't go on another run next year. Not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl next year. Again, to our point, so hard to win back-to-back, but could go on another playoff run next year. And, hey, this was probably the toughest coaching. You said in some ways he has a lot of help, But this is also maybe the toughest year coaching of his career when you factor in all the COVID limitations. The way that impacted training camp all the way through the regular season and into the postseason. It might be nice to come back for one more year. And even if the Bucs implode next year and they just end up missing the playoffs by some reason, it might be injuries, it could be just a huge drop-off, whatever it is, it'd kind of be nice to go back and play in front of fans again and take that victory lap, so to speak. They're not going to get a formal parade here or anything. Wouldn't that be nice to, I don't know, take a bow in front of an audience next year? One more thing here is sort of Chiefs defense and penalties. I'm going to wrap these into one. I saved penalties for last year that was on purpose because I really didn't want that to be part of the main conversation because it's not a reason why the Bucs won at all. They could have still dominated this game without penalties being called. It was one-sided. It was lopsided. There was a huge disparity. I think 11-4 was the penalty disparity, and then the yardage even more ridiculous. The Chiefs over 100 penalty yards. When you look at the disparity like that, it doesn't feel right. You're saying maybe there's some missed calls, but to be honest with you, of all the penalties that were called on the Chiefs, I don't recall any being super egregious. I felt like they called a pretty fair game, to be honest with you. And this kind of goes to my point about the Chiefs defense. They play physical. Like, they're not the most talented group overall. They have their stars. They have their guys that make plays, but as a whole, they're not the most talented unit. And as far as secondary goes, they play a little physical and sort of force the refs to make the call. They're going to get their money's worth, so to speak, when it comes to roughing up receivers and being physical with them, grabbing them. I think pretty much every team in some capacity does that in today's NFL. You can't play scared because you're just going to get run all over. You go under the magnifying glass and you look at all these, pass interference, holding calls in their secondary. They're all warranted. They were all pass interference. They were all holding. What is the ref supposed to do? Just not blow the whistle, ignore it when they see it? And I wanted to point out Tyrann Mathieu, what a clown. That's kind of my point here. This one of the more talented guys on this Chiefs defense, a vocal leader on the team. He's a very great player, taking nothing away from him, but his behavior in this game, it was just laughable. I don't know how you can look at it and not laugh at the guy. He gets hit with the penalty in the end zone. It was a warranted penalty. He grabbed the guy. He was holding him. Pass interference, whatever you want to call it, all day. It was the right call. He spends the entire time between plays complaining about it. And then the very next play, he gets beat one-on-one by Antonio Brown for the touchdown. And he gets up and he's not happy about that. I think he's upset with his defense. I don't know defensive play calling enough. Maybe that wasn't his assignment. Maybe he was supposed to have help with a linebacker. I'm not sure. But he got beat, and that's the result. But what I don't get is him chirping Brady after just giving up a touchdown. He gets in Brady's face. I don't get that at all. Where do you get off where you can get in his face after he just drove down the field and you're responsible for putting them on the goal line with your penalty and then giving up the touchdown because that was the guy that you were covering, Antonio Brown, and you feel the need to get in this guy's face? By the way, shout out to Tom Brady for giving it right back to him and chasing him down the field and yelling at him and saying, hey, you want to get in my face? I'm going to go after you all game. And he didn't let up. He let him know the rest of the game, Brady did, that they had their number and they weren't going to let up. So,
yeah, I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it on the show, but Tom Brady is just on an entirely different level of human that, let alone myself, but most people in the world will ever reach the pinnacle of being. I mean, Yeah, I think there. I mean, you're right. There was some back and forth there. Like I think with all the penalties going on and the yardage giving up, Tyrann was throwing a temper tantrum, blah blah blah, and Brady sought him out at one point and came up and was in his face, and they had a big jawing back and forth. I can't the whole there were so many plays back in that Super Bowl where there was some chippiness, and I don't remember the exact sequence, but there were instances where Honey Badger was throwing a fit, and then there was the instance where Brady ran up to him, started chirping. But at the end of the day, I mean, Brady, he's gotten criticism in the past for being a whiner, a baby, blah blah blah. Some of that, you can see that when he is hit to the ground sometimes. The Brady privilege, which has turned a little bit into the Mahomes privilege, in certain Chiefs games, comes out to rear its ugly head. But at the end of the day, some guys can't put that stuff to bed. Certainly there's talent and teams and players in the NFL that let these in-game drama or games leading up to drama, they let it boil out on social media and never let it go, and it becomes this huge thing and a talking point in the media. But Brady, it has that ability, immediately after the game, immediately after winning a championship, to just calm down and reach out and just apologize. So yeah, you give him all the credit in the world, not only for what he's able to do as a 43-year-old NFL quarterback, but the ultimate sportsman. He's been through so many championships. He's clearly cemented his legacy. He's known, he knows both what it's like to win a championship 7 times now and what it's like to lose. And I think, even he had to have known going in that there was a chance that Tyrann Mathieu would have not taken the apology right away. But the fact, it seems like they made amends and put it to bed right away. That's all you hope for at the end of the day. You don't want to see grudges being held or anything like that. I mean, teams in the NFL have enough players and teams that they don't like already with division rivals and stuff. These teams play each other once every 4 years, unless it's in a Super Bowl. So happy that they were able to work out their differences. And it's, it is still a talking point, but it's not nearly to the level of what it could have been.
Right. And what I didn't even mention is that I guess before this news, or as this news of Brady reaching out to him, because I don't know the exact time when he did that, Monday morning or whatever it was, Mathieu said in a quote press conference, wherever it was, or no, he tweeted it after the game, and the tweet has since been deleted. He's very quick to delete this, but insinuating that what Brady was saying to him, well, I won't say what he was insinuating. I'll just say that he said that he can't repeat what Tom Brady said to him during the game. He said it was so foul he won't repeat it. Essentially, I'm not going to jump to any conclusions, but in our current climate, and we have seen this before in the NFL, we had some claims of this in the Mason Rudolph, Myles Garrett situation. So if you weren't already on the same thought process there, that's where I'm heading with this. Those are some big claims. That's not taken lightly. To be throwing around those claims when they might not be 100% true, that's not right. That's dangerous. And I am not saying he's lying. I'm not saying he's even insinuating that this was race-related. But he has since deleted the tweet, and we also know that Tom Brady was mic'd up for this game. So if there was claims, and if he did mean that this was racially charged in any way, or even if it wasn't racially charged and he said something truly foul, I don't know, said something about his mother, I don't know what else you could say is 100% over the line that you're not willing to accept in terms of trash talk on the NFL field, it's got to be pretty bad, and he wanted to make that claim. Brady's mic'd up, and the league could pull that tape at any moment, So he deleted the tweet. I don't know what that tells you.
I think if there was anything, racially charged, that the media would have happily released that by now to expose Brady. So I doubt anything. anything of that nature. Not saying that what Brady said wasn't offensive. It definitely, probably in the heat of the moment was, but I think if it was racially charged, we definitely would have heard something about it by now. What you think of the halftime show? I mean, I thought it was really cool. I'm not a regular listener of The Weeknd. Of course, I've heard all of his main stuff before. I think he's talented. I mean, I definitely think he's better than anything we've gotten over the last few years. He's got great vocals. I thought it was cool since, they didn't have a full crowd and with all these social distancing limitations. I really enjoyed, with there being no stage on the Super Bowl with a bunch of fans around, I really liked how you got that first person camera angle, like as if you were following everything happening as they were gliding or walking down the field. I thought the jock strap masks were a little strange, but it was I guess like a theme of 2020 and 2021 being incorporated into the act. So I didn't mind it. I just thought the mask kind of looked like cups, but I liked the first person point of view being on the field. I thought that was really cool.
So I agree with you. I thought it was great. One of the best in recent history. Nothing outlandish happened, which I think is why people just judge halftime shows on what crazy thing happened, what blooper gaffe happened, surprise guest appearance. None of that happened. I mean, it was just him. There was no special guest. And I'm with you. I like that they didn't, or he wasn't confined to that, kind of in the round type stage where you have people and fans all around you in the field. They couldn't do that this year with COVID, so he kind of got a more unique and special staging setup. And then the fact that, the backdrop to the stage opens up and he heads back in there for part of the performance, and he's in the kind of House of Mirrors looking thing, and all the choreography dancers are in there with him. I thought it was great. And I said while I was watching it, you could tell that he was singing, and I think The Weeknd's very talented. I'm not a super fan. I don't listen to the albums, but I'm with you. I know the hits. I enjoy the hits. And, I've heard the recording version, the studio album version of all of these hits before. And the live version, I could tell he was actually singing because it sounded absolutely nothing like the studio version. There were imperfections. There were parts where he slowed things down or, changed his vocal inflection on certain delivery and stuff. And it was you could tell he was singing. There was we see a lot of this stuff, especially in the Super Bowl and these big performances that are more so made for television than a live audience. They like to go with more backing track vocals or completely lip sync. I'm not knocking that at all, but I do think it should be noted that The Weeknd deserves credit for truly performing live and singing, because he is a very talented singer. So I thought it was great. And and the finishing moment where they were all on the field and had the aerial shots and everything, that was really cool. So I really enjoyed it.
And another thing I liked, I think because there weren't nearly as many people in the stadium, I think the NFL and the crew at Raymond James Stadium were able to put more strobe lights and different LED lights around the stadium where there weren't people. So I really enjoyed, half the reason why I used to go to all those, wrestling shows, even after I got out of my fandom, was because I just like the LED light displays, and I enjoy visual effects like that. And they had some augmented reality, leading into the halftime show, which I took a winter course on and kind of learned a little bit about. And I really enjoyed all the pretty lights and the visual effects. The 5-year-old in me liked seeing all that. So props to everybody that was involved with putting those together.
Well, speaking of that kind of augmented reality thing, I thought you were going to bring up the Vince Lombardi hologram at the beginning of the game. Which
that one was a little weird just because of how it was placed on that black screen. I don't know what you would call it, and it probably would have been better if it was a little bit darker out. I think there was still a little bit of twilight there, which might have not made the effect as cool. But when they when they were going, I think when they were leading into the halftime show, they had some like augmented graphics like come up on the screen leading into the start of the music, and it was very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, I don't know. The Lombardi thing, I said in the moment, like, I know that was like, it was supposed to be this big, like, motivational thing and stick together as a country and all that stuff. But I remember sitting there when they showed up with him as the hologram, and I was like, this is a bit much, isn't it? Like, we didn't need this part.
That's another thing. I'm glad we got the politicalness done and taken care of. I didn't know. I mean, were there many political references during the halftime show? I might have missed them. I don't remember them being any, but if I remember correctly,
no, I don't think the weekend had anything. I don't know.
I'm glad we got everything out of the way before the game started.
Yeah, I also said before the game, like, you say the game's going to start at 6:30. Let's get all of the the anthem and all this stuff and the coin toss and God Bless America and all this stuff. The salute to the healthcare worker. There was even more this year, which is probably why they bled into and past 6:30, and the game didn't start until like 6:45-ish, because they had even more this year where they got to say, oh, we got to salute the healthcare workers, and we got to talk about race, and we got to talk about this and that. And it's like, it was truly the 2021 Super Bowl. Oh, and then the fan running on the field. We got to talk about that. Guy ran on the field. That was something you could bet on. I didn't bring that up, but it was plus 700 odds for a fan to run on the field, and that he did late in the game. Game was pretty much out of reach at the time, but a guy ran on the field, and unfortunately, the rules, I get it. TV cameras cut away. You don't want to promote that kind of stuff or encourage people doing it, especially during a Super Bowl, because that is a great opportunity to advertise, I guess, or cheap promotion to have someone run on the field. But he didn't even make it to the end zone. That was what was disappointing. He slid down at the 1 yard line. Didn't even finish in the end zone.
Do you know who did the radio call with? Did Kevin Harlen have another?
Yes, he was. You look it up on Twitter. It's great. It's just
okay.
It's even better than his one from Monday Night Football a couple of years ago, because he's the voice of Westwood One, so it was him on the radio call with Kurt Warner. Tremendous call. I won't even try to imitate it, but there's so many great quotables in there.
Yeah, that's the first thing I'm going to look at after we're done here, because I haven't heard that yet. I heard somebody mention Kevin Harlen on one of the local shows I was listening to Monday, but I was having trouble remembering if they said it definitely happened or they wished it happened. So I definitely need to check that out, because I'm sure it's great.
Yeah,
he's great.
That's what I love. If a fan runs on the field, when that cat was on the field a couple of years ago, he had that, was calling that one. I mean, that's what makes him the best, I guess, is he could call anything like it's a sport. I want him to come and narrate my life. Everyone says they want Morgan Freeman to narrate their life. I want Kevin Harlan to narrate my life like it's play-by-play. Now he's going to the cabinet. He's grabbing the cereal box. He's pouring the milk. That's what I want.
It's amazing. He doesn't bat an eye whenever it happens. It's just like it just streams right into his flow of the story he's telling. Like, it doesn't matter what distraction's happening. He finds a way to adjust on the fly and come up with his own original content as its live situation's playing out. So give him credit for that, because some play-by-play guys either fail to notice it until it starts happening, or don't care and get angry about it. So glad that he has like a much looser tone.
All right, I think that's going to do it for episode 140. Thank you guys for sticking with us through the entire NFL season, whether it was Ravens and beyond. I appreciate you. Spread the word of the podcast. I don't know. I mean, Jake is gearing up here with work and everything. We'll probably have him back occasionally, but it won't be. We won't be bothering him every week like we were here during the NFL season. Might have some shorter episodes on the horizon until baseball gets fully underway. I might be doing some solo episodes. We'll see. We'll let you know on social media. You can follow us, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. We'll get the word out no matter what's happening. And whenever you hear episode 141, we'll talk to you then.